नमस्कार मित्रों, द नेशनलिस्ट के इस ताज़ा एपिसोड में आपका स्वागत है। और हमारे साथ खास मेहमान हैं श्री बिपिन देव जी। बिपिन जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद समय निकालने के लिए। विपिन जी काठमांडू नेपाल से हैं और नेपाल से ही हमारे साथ जुड़ रहे हैं। त्रिभुवन यूनिवर्सिटी में अंग्रेजी विभाग के हेड ऑफ द डिपार्टमेंट यानी विभागाध्यक्ष हैं। लेकिन इसके अलावा भू राजनीतिक विषयों पर, खासकर यानी जियोपॉलिटिकल इश्यूज पर उनका लगातार लेखन रहता है, लेक्चर करते हैं और राष्ट्रीय अंतर्राष्ट्रीय कई जो प्लेटफॉर्म्स हैं उन पर उनके कॉलम्स पब्लिश होते रहते हैं। साउथ एशिया पर उनकी खास नज़र रहती है और हम उनके साथ ऑलरेडी एक बार कार्यक्रम कर चुके हैं और एक बार फिर से बिपिन जी हमारे साथ जुड़ रहे हैं। बिपिन जी, आज हम थोड़ी सी बात करना चाहते हैं भारत का जो एक पड़ोसी देश है बांग्लादेश, उसके अंदर काफी तेजी से राजनीतिक घटनाक्रम चल रहा है और एक बार फिर से एक हिंदू जिनोसाइड की भी तैयारी ऐसा लगता है वहां हो रही है। हमने हाल ही में इस पर एक वीडियो किया था सलाउद्दीन शोएब चौधरी जी के साथ। वहां पर जमात के जो अमीर हैं उन्होंने एक जिनोसाइड की जो है कॉल दी है और इसके अलावा भी हिंदुओं पर लगातार वहां हमले जारी हैं। और तो कुल मिलाकर स्थिति काफी विकट है। तो आप नेपाल में हैं, नेपाल के साथ भारत का पुराना एक सभ्यतागत संबंध भी है। तो और नेपाल में मूलतः जो है वो हिंदू बहुसंख्यक में है, बहुसंख्या में है। और तो आप नेपाल में जब हैं, और तो आप कैसे देखते हैं ये जो बांग्लादेश के अंदर हो रहा है, नेपाल में इसको किस तरीके से जो है वो देखा जा रहा है, हिंदुओं पर बांग्लादेश के अंदर जो अत्याचार हो रहे हैं और जो हिंदुओं की वहां पर विकट स्थिति बन रही है, तो इसको नेपाल के अंदर जो है वो कैसे देखा जा रहा है?
धन्यवाद आनंद जी। मैं त्रिभुवन यूनिवर्सिटी अंतर्गत एक अमृत साइंस कॉलेज है, वहां पर मैं अध्यापन करता हूँ। वहां पर मैं विभाग का लीड करता हूँ। त्रिभुवन अमृत साइंस कॉलेज में पुराना कॉलेज है और जियो पॉलिटिक्स में यहाँ पर मैं नेपाली पत्र पत्रिका में लिखता रहता हूँ। और थैंक यू वंस अगेन फॉर ग्रेसियस इंट्रोडक्शंस। देखिए, खास कर जहां तक बांग्लादेश की बात है, तो बांग्लादेश का जब भारत का विभाजन हुआ और भारत का विभाजन होने के बाद जब बांग्लादेश पाकिस्तान का एक हिस्सा था और 71 में जब बांग्लादेश में आंदोलन हुआ था फॉर द नेशंस, आज तक मानव इतिहास में इन द लॉन्ग स्पैन ऑफ द ह्यूमन हिस्ट्री, that type of cruelty and barbarity that Pakistani army perpetuated against the Bengali Muslims, hardly you find that even Hitler has done, Mussolini has done, Stalin has done. 30 lakhs, 3 million Bengali died in course of the getting a nation based on secularism. Not only this, 300,000, 3 lakhs women were raped by Pakistani armies. Not only that, 14,000 Indian soldiers lost their life for the sake of independence of Bangladesh. And for the sake of independence of the Bangladesh, at that point of the time, India was at very critical juncture, in the sense that America was exerting unsurmountable and unprecedented pressure on Indira Gandhi. America has sent even 7 fleet as a part of the warning not to interfere in the internal affairs of the Pakistan, because there was a good and friendly relationship between Pakistan and United States. Nixon was dead against. He has gone to the extent of saying that Indira Gandhi is a witch. At the same time, China was also exercising its verbal war against India. At that point of the time, India has a peace treaty in 1971 with the Soviet Union. As a result of this very game plan, Bangladesh as a nation came in the global map. For sake of what? For sake of freedom, for sake of democracy, for sake of human rights. But what was the consequence? What was the result? In spite of all the nurturing and nourishing of India for sake of Bangladesh, Hindus in Bangladesh have been from time to time victimized And you see, just like not only in the Bangladesh, if you look at when the Pakistan came as an independent nation, at that point of the time, there was 17% Hindu populations in 17% Hindu population in Pakistan. But if you see at the present time, even it has fallen down from the 3%, 2 point some, as I have found somewhere. Similarly, over the span of the time, Hindus have been brutalized in the Bangladesh. So all the measures, just like professors, teachers, artists, investors, Hindu has played very important and vital role in the growth story of the Bangladesh. But whatever attacks takes place, wherever attacks takes place, I mean, the Hindus in Bangladesh are victimized. So, being human beings, not to talk of Hindus, being human beings, and as far as Hinduism is concerned, it is a secular religion, Vasudevam Kutumbakam. So, from the soil of Nepal, what I simply can say that with the growth of fanaticism and fundamentalism in Bangladesh, Hindus have been massacred. And Trump, before the elections, he had given a statement lending his support to the Hindus, but after becoming a president, his tone and temper has been changed, and America has its own policy with regard to Bangladesh. But it is high time for Hindus, wherever they live, they have to just like raise their voice in favor of the human rights, in favor of the Hindus, in favor of women over there. Because you see, just like in 90s, when Fukuyama came with the theory of the end of the history, after 20 years there was another slogan came up, that was a clash of civilizations. So it is ironical in the situation, the clash of civilizations. Islamic phobia has been so, I mean, a great narrative all over the world. Even in France, majority Christians they find threatened. Even in Britain, majority Christians find themselves threatened. In United States, they find threatened by fundamentalists and fanatics. Even in India, majority is Hindus, but they find themselves threatened. But Hindus in Bangladesh are in minorities. And I'm talking about Bengali culture is an amalgam of art, culture, literature. It has been wonderful culture. Even Hindus and Muslims, they have been together for the long time. And Bangladeshi war took place in the name of saving the Bengali civilization. Now it has been bulldozed. Though the majority of the Bengalis, they are in favor of just like Bengali culture and something like that. So I think just like from the soil of Nepal, I express my sympathy, support, and just like my love to the Hindus who are suffering under the Yunus government.
Bipinji, one more question that emerges, that why Yunus regime is playing into the hands of Pakistan and the Islamist forces. This whole targeting of Hindus has escalated under Yunus regime. So, how do you see the role of basically Pakistan in this, and then there is the US deep state, and I'll also come to basically lessons for Nepal, because I see some common denominators. For example, in Nepal, though there is no kind of direct US deep state visible, but there are large amount of conversions which are being done by the NGOs which are funded from US and the West, from Hinduism to Christianity. And then there is also a growing threat of Islamism. At one point of time, there has been ISI, the Pakistan Intelligence Agency, had a very strong presence in Nepal. And how do you see basically the role of the Yunus regime, whose puppet is Yunus regime, and of course then the China angle also comes, because initially when Yunus came, he swayed towards China. Now he seems to be playing a double game, just like the Pakistan. The similarity between Yunus and Pakistan is that Pakistan is also playing a game where it is catering to both China and US, and in Bangladesh, Yunus regime is also playing a similar game. And in Nepal also, we see basically it is also a theater of both China, Islamist forces, as well as indirectly the United States or the West. So, overall, how do you look at basically what is happening in Bangladesh? What are the lessons for Nepal?
As far as the comparison between Bangladesh and Nepal is concerned, I don't think that I hardly agree with you, because Bangladesh, what happened, the movement that Bangladesh the movement the Bangladesh under the Yunus government, it has been the movement anti-Indian movement. It has been anti-Sheikh Hasina movement. It is anti-establishment. It is anti against the ethos of 1971. It is against the secularism. It is against the democracy. But in Nepal, what happens is that our Gen Z movement in Nepal has taken place against the corruptions, against the crafty, cunning, and cynical politicians. And in Nepal, what happens? Democracy has not been under the threat. You see, the positive point is that even the Communist Party, regional parties, all they have the commitment to multi-party democracy in Nepal. So, fanaticism and fundamentalism do not have upper hand in the Nepal. Maybe as you have talked about ISI and other activities, I am not right authority to say how far it is for the intelligence to report how far they have been engaged. But as far as the repercussions on the social life is concerned, I don't find that just like they have any major role to play, because basically people in Nepal are very peace loving, they are disciplined people, they are hardworking, and Nepali society has been globalized. We have access to United States, Canada, Australia, our brother and sisters, our students, they have the access. So they believe in the liberal part of the educations. Hinduism itself, the culture that people have inherited from the Hinduism, it is a liberal state of the mind. There is no room for the fundamentalism and fanaticism to grow in the soil of the Hindus. Number one. Number two point that I'm talking about, that Yunus has been in fact the puppet of fundamentalists and fanatics under the cover of deep state of United States of America. Because just like what are the geopolitical reasons? The main reason was that the growth of the Bangladesh, economic growth of the Bangladesh, was being driven by the good and friendly relationship between India and Bangladesh. And you see, just like I'll congratulate you, in the cloud of economic uncertainty, India has obtained 8.2% GDP growth. So it has been miracle, just like all over the world. So had Bangladesh not been disturbed, perhaps the Bangladesh would be the one of the emerging economic power in the South Asia. So what happens when there is uncertainty, when there is a civil war, when there is a communal clashes, when there is a violence? These very NGOs, INGO, Scandinavian countries, European Union, United States, and to larger extent even China, they have certain role to play. When the democracy becomes stronger, when the people's voice is heard, there is no room for the third power to interfere in the internal affairs of any countries. So, just like Yunus government, in fact, just like it has been committed to hold the free fair elections, but so many protestations, Awami League has been suppressed, the cadres have been locked, so many criminals have been made free from the jail. There is an atmosphere of anarchy and chaos in every nook and corner of Bangladesh. So, in fact, there is another geopolitical dimensions. What happened? The United States has been reached. Why? Because on the side of it, there is Mexico and Canada. India is growing, just like one of the Australian think tank has given result that in the Asia there are three major powers. No matter United States is far away from the Asia, but United States is still number one power. Second power is China, and third power is India. So if India has to grow economically, then what happens? Its neighbors have to also grow simultaneously. If its neighbors Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, they are disturbed, it would have the counterproductive impact on the growth of the economy of India. So this very international politics is not a matter of the emotions and feelings. It is just like in the chessboard of the diplomacy, there is no emotion. So, in fact, it is for India to diplomatically manage the situations. It is for the people of the Bangladesh to see the situations, because if the Bangladesh would be rich, if the Bangladesh would be stable, the people of the Bangladesh would be benefited. Since we are the neighbors, we would have also positive impact on it. So I think that there is a great realizations by reading the newspapers of the Bangladesh. Their think tanks, they are expressing their voice in favor of democracy and human rights. Because once the people have tested the taste and smell of the democracy, they cannot tolerate the dictatorship. People of the Bangladesh, they have tested what is the democracy, what is the growth story. Bangladeshi textiles is everywhere, its motor parts is everywhere all over the world. So I think that let us hope, being neighbors, that the situation will come back to the normalcy.
So, Bipin, you made a very interesting point about this Australian think tank's report, which ranks, now China and India very closely as, one of the two superpowers or one of the two major powers amongst the three they have listed. Now, if we look at from the Sino-India relationship lens, or if I may say, to be more candid, from the Sino-India or India-China rivalry lens, we have seen, you also made a point that wherever India has gone, its neighbors has flourished. Whereas wherever China has gone, it went to Sri Lanka, it went bankrupt. It has, wherever it has, gone, it has gone to China. We see the Chinese economic situation, and also the Chinese, strategic situation in Balochistan. So, apart from that, so in Bangladesh also, China actually was basically, kind of, I would say, one of the factors that US actually intervened, because the Bangladesh government at that time seemed to be aligning at times not so much towards US as towards China. So, now coming to Nepal, because China has made some major investments in Nepal, and then there is a Chinese Communist Party, and you have the communist parties here also. So, and in India, we have very often seen reports of the Chinese ambassador, meeting some very significant people, and also at times, kind of, there have been some articles here that, Chinese have tried to intervene into the domestic politics of Nepal. But keeping that apart, overall, if we look at Nepal from the Sino-India rivalry lens, so,
So,
sir, how do you look at, from the soil of Nepal? How do you look at the lessons which probably, all Indian neighbors and especially Nepal can take from the lens of the, India-China rivalry?
actually, it is in fact very, very interesting subject matter to discuss about Sino-India relationships. Let me just give you the little background from the lens of Nepal. When Chinese were fighting for their independence, when Japan was attacking China, at that point of the time, Indian National Congress, they had boycotted Japanese goods in favor of the Chinese liberation, Chinese war against Japan. In the same way, what happened, just like Mao Zedong, from time to time has expressed his solidarity to the Indian freedom movement. And in 1943, Chiang Kai-shek had visited India in order to meet the Mahatma Gandhi, telling that British imperialism must be kicked out from the soil of India. Just like at the personal level, there was a good relationship at the leadership level. But there was one problem. Problem was that Mao Zedong had thought that China should be only major power in Asia. Whereas Nehruvian school of the thought says that there should be bipolar, India and China have to go together. In spite of this thing, India was the first non-communist country to give the stamp of approval as an independent nation to China. Even just like what happens at the leadership level, there was no proper communication. You see, in the Bandung, when the conference, just like Choi Lai was being introduced by Nehru to other leaders, Choi Lai felt inferiority complex. Why the Nehru is getting me introduced with other leaders? After all, I represent China. He told the Mao Zedong, and Mao Zedong has written a letter to Stalin to convince Nehru that why Nehru is just like behaving big brotherly to Chen Lai. So what happens, even in the beginning, there was no proper communication at the leadership level. Had there been so, at the time of giving the approval to the China, India would have sorted out boundary problems. When the Tibet was accepted by India as a integral part of China in 1950, I think. In 1950, China captured Tibet. At that time, that was the time that the border issue would have resolved. So something Vijay Gokhale has described in a very wonderful way in his book Long Game. Similarly, you find there is another interesting book I like to share even to your viewers, Nirupmare, Fractured Himalayas. In these two books, there was a communication factor that was responsible between the dispute of the two great countries having had great civilizations. History has always shadow, and above all, Dalai Lama, in fact, His Holiness Dalai Lama had even in 1959 he took the shelter in India. Before that, in 1956 he had also visited India, and once a Chinese delegation went to Indian communist leaders went to China, and it was before 1962. And Nehru asked them to ask Mao what is his view. Dalai Lama has taken shelter in the soil of India. Then Mao Zedong replies, it has been very good that Dalai Lama has taken the shelter in democratic country like India rather than imperial country in the United States. So just like what happens, in the beginning Dalai Lama took the shelter in India, situation was normal. But what happened, this very imperialistic game, United States, European countries, just like they created picture in a such way that there was gulf between India and China. Just like what happens in the beginning, if you look at before 1962, the relationship was going smoothly. And what happens when in 1970, what happens, it was Pakistan, which from the Pakistan, just like military aircraft, Henry Kissinger visited China. And it was Henry Kissinger who paved the way for a good relationship between United States and China. As a result of it, what happens, Radha Mohan has said very beautiful, there was happy marriage between American capital and Chinese labor. As a result of it, what happened, China has made tremendous growth. So my point is here to say that it is ironical situation in the geopolitics. When China came closer to United States, at that point of the time, what happens? India has no other choice than going near to the Soviet Union. And look at the wheels of the history. Nowadays, Trump and President Xi, they are being closer, and India is mid distance. So this is just like geopolitical realities. As far as from the lens of Nepal, what I can say, just like when there is a gone are those days when the China and India, they were fighting, they had problems. At that point of the time, a small nation could have had advantage. But nowadays, this is the age of investment. This is the age of business. This is the age of, there is a supply chain. And in the age of the supply chain, in the age of technology, just like when the two major powers come closer, then the small countries, a small economy would have great benefits. So what happens when the China and just like India would develop the good relationships in the days to come, country like Nepal would have benefit. When the Dalai Lama's issues would be sorted out, then what happens? Nepal would not have to just like face the refugee problems. India will not have the face the refugee problems. So what happens? Geopolitics is what wherever there is a problem in one country, it has bound to have its effects and repercussions on the other parts of the world. And in the present day, what happens is that just like look at a small Taiwan. I have just gone through there is a clash between, I mean, verbal clash between Japan and China over the issue of Taiwan. So what happens in the present time? What happens? Just like I think, in my view, in 1988, Rajiv Gandhi had visited to China. At that time, President Deng had given one wonderful solution of the problem. Let us grow economically. When we would be economically strong, then other tiny mini disputes would itself be resolved over the passage of the time. So what happens? But point is that India has a 100 billion trade deficit with the China. China is not opening its market for Indian goods. On the other hand, it has penetrated in the Indian soils. So now the favorable wind is blowing when in the just like let me tell you, in the 2005, India was growing very rapidly. At that time, what happens? Just like a major agreement took place between China and India. At the same time, when India was growing smartly, at that time, what happened? Just like nuclear agreement took place with the United States. Point is that this is the good indication that India has made its economic growth by leaps and bounds by obtaining 8.2%. So more it becomes economically stronger, its relationship with the China would improve. But nowadays the gap is just like there is a gulf between just like a economic growth story of China and India. In 1988, when Rajiv visited China, at that point of the time, the economy of both countries were the same size. Now, just like China has grown 5 times, around the 5 times greater than the size of India. So maybe just like geopolitics is like that, the solution lies in the growth story, economic growth story of India's. Just like it has a demographic dividends, it has a pool of talents, technology, English speaking country, democratic structure. So all these metrics that have been in favor of India, it would pave the growth, and with the growth of India, there would be good relations, let us hope, between between China and India. And when the relationship would be stronger in terms of economy, the benefit lies for the smaller countries, for a small economy, and we would have greater benefits.
Bipin, my last question is that Nepal is an important nation when it comes to the Buddhist heritage. And you mentioned the issue of Dalai Lama, and we have also seen what is happening in Tibet. What China is doing in Tibet, China has subjugated Tibet not only geographically, but it is now attacking at the cultural roots of Buddhism there. So there is a massive, kind of freedom struggle going on since 1959, and in fact, China has also destroyed to a large extent Tibet environmentally also. That is what a lot of experts are saying. So I don't want to pass a value judgment on it, but that is the general perception which is coming out. There are a lot of facts also coming about this. So Nepal being an important place for the Buddhist legacy, the Buddhist heritage. So how do you see the Tibet issue, the struggle for Tibet's freedom, what China is doing in Tibet, and you mentioned about Dalai Lama also. So as we move ahead, so between the Sino-India relationship and then the Chinese presence in Nepal, and so how do you see this, sir?
Actually, what actually happens is that India has China as neighbors because China has captured Tibet in 1950. Otherwise, there was no border between India and, China. Similarly, Nepal has border with China because there is Tibet. So you find that Tibet is glue in terms of culture, in terms of economy, in terms of heritage, in terms of religion. In spite of this, it is very ironical situations. His Holy Highness Dalai Lama has not visited even once in Nepal because of obvious reason that our country, our economy, our the political situation is not in position to welcome him because of the obvious threat of China. That is obvious because we are not, even India is finding hard to have the tussle and confrontation with the China, because China is second largest economy. Its military power is very high, but India is only one country to see eyeball to China. But small countries having a weak economy is not in position to have the clash with the China at the present point of the time. Second feature is that there are many devotees, just like Buddhism is a major religion in Nepal, and you find there is unique amalgam between Hinduism and Buddhism. Same person is Buddhist and same person is just like Hindu. When you visit Kathmandu, I hope you very soon that the same people, you find same devotees in Hindu temple and Buddhist temple. So in terms of so we have great respect for His Holiness. That is true. And whatever the agreement, 17-point agreements that has taken place between His Holiness Dalai Lama with the Chinese. So there is international support. This very agreement that has taken place between His Holiness and the Chinese counterpart. These agreements need to be materialized. And in that very agreement, there is autonomy of Tibet under the suzerainty and sovereignty of the China. But above all, you understand very well, China is a communist country. And for the communist, religion is opium, isn't it? So what happens not only in the Tibet, just like Islam, just like in Xinjiang, or in just like what are the situation of the Muslims in China? They cannot have a long beard. But no Muslim country is in position to raise its voice against the China with regard to the position and condition of the Muslims living in China. So this is the geopolitical realities. In the geopolitics, there is no language of the emotions, feelings. Only matter of strength, matter of might, and matter of the bulldozing, all right, to smalls. So what I can say from the soil of the Nepal, we have respect of His Holiness. We have respect for Buddhism. Buddhism is a part of our life. We have learned a lot. And one thing that I like to just like express my views, that the main glue between the Chinese civilizations and Indian civilization is Buddhism. Buddhism is a major glue. So as long as there is a feeling for Buddhism in China, they have good respect for India in Indian culture. So I think politics is like a wind that blows very fastly, and these are not so. USSR, Soviet Union was more powerful. It wanted to just like diminish and eliminate religion from its soil. But what happens? Religion there is a flourishing. So you see, religion is something. It is a matter of it is the evolution of the 1,000 years of the human history. We are talking about only in 1950 the communism came in China as a power. So just like we cannot judge the whole history in the spectrum of the short period of the time. Let us see what happens.
Thank you, Bipinji, for sharing your deep insights. And to our viewers, if you have liked the conversation, please share it and subscribe to the channel. And please also press the like button. And we'll be back soon with another conversation. Thank you so much once again, Bipinji, for taking time.
Thank you very much for having given me opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.